All right. Hey guys, Jordy from Seven Eagle Group. So excited today to be talking with John Stoner, a 10-year U.S. Army veteran, spent 20 years in tech, 20 years doing national security, 10 of it was in cyber, lives down in Maryland near Fort Meade. John, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with us and share your story and all the advice that you're going to have for our veterans. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. So, do you mind? Let's start out. Tell everyone a little bit about your Army experience, what you learned from it, what you did in the military.
Sure. So the funny story that I can open with is my mom forbid me from joining the Army when I was 18. So I secretly joined and got married when I was 19.
Get ahead.
And one of those was a super great career decision. But yeah, so
All
I joined in SIGINT, which my recruiter and my drill sergeants had no idea what it was, but a technical intelligence, signals intelligence. So I was first stationed in Germany, and then at Fort Meade, and then in Ottawa, Canada. So we could have a whole discussion on that
Wow.
sometime. And then I got out and sort of transitioned into the DoD contracting space here in Maryland, around Fort Meade, and some of the national security agencies around, and some of the Army units.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of things in cybersecurity in the 10 years. It took a while for me to find my niche because
Yeah.
there's a lot of different jobs and roles that are available. So once I found cyber threat intelligence, I have found my niche. But it even took me a long time. So it's one of the reasons I enjoy talking to veterans and
Yeah.
people in the space to try and help them with their career.
That's awesome. Did you know you always wanted to stay in tech and cyber when you left the military, or?
Um, yeah, I mean, I wanted to continue with a mission that was really important. That's important to me as a career,
Yeah.
sort of life thing. So the missions we do in the DoD are really important, and I knew I wanted to continue doing really important work. A lot of my career had been spent fighting the war on terrorism, contributing in Operation Enduring Freedom. So I wanted to continue doing something that was really meaningful. So I am able to continue to do that in the threat intel space.
What do you like the best about working in cyber?
So for me in cybersecurity, it's that you can really shape your career. So once you get in, which is sometimes difficult,
Hmm.
it's a career field that allows a lot of mobility and flexibility. So if you find yourself with different interests every couple of years, like that's okay. You can tweak how your career is going to go. There's lots of opportunity, especially for veterans who are familiar with the DoD space. So I have pretty much changed jobs every 2.5 to 3.5 years since I got
Wow.
out. And some people will change them sooner. It sort of depends where you're at. Like Silicon Valley, very mobile, very dynamic. A lot of people like the startup world, so that can be very entertaining and dynamic. Um, but I like the fact that you're doing something really meaningful, but you'll have a lot of career mobility and flexibility. So
Yeah.
those are the two biggest things. Plus, it pays pretty well. So just to be honest,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
you know,
Explain for people the main differences between working in cyber for, say, the government or a federal contractor versus the private sector?
Sure, there's a couple of important topics there, and if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to talk to them afterwards.
Yeah.
One of the big things in the commercial sector is sometimes the level of burnout. I mean, obviously, in the private sector, there's a demand, on call weekends, depending on what your role is. That even in the government, sometimes you don't see it quite at that same level. Now
Hmm.
it depends. I mean, there's those of us are working shift work or we're in deployed environments still, so it can be a little bit different. But broadly speaking, especially if you get into a state or federal position, it's generally a little bit more secure if you want to work in that space versus contracting. So it kind of depends. But in most of your major military areas, people say contracting is a little riskier. I have not had that experience because someone else is going to win the contract. So if
Right.
you work for one firm, I mean, they're not getting rid of your job if they didn't win the recompete. Someone else is going to come in.
Okay.
So I mean, so yes, it's not as secure as like being a federal employee.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of opportunity with the contractors, whether you want to work for a really big one that we all have swag from, or whether you're interested
Yeah.
in some of the smaller ones. Um, And I think that one of the differences is that for our veterans, when you go into the DoD contracting world, you're automatically going to be a fit. Like you're automatically a culture fit. You don't need to change the way you speak. You
Yeah.
might need to work on some consulting skills a little bit depending on what you're doing. But if you go like straight into commercial that's not connected to the government, like even the verbiage and the lingo that we're all used to will seem odd and out of place there. So if you're going to go that route, like there are some things you can try to do on your resume and sort of maybe the way you speak. Like I still, use military time. It's kind of ingrained. But if you're working out in like, Nebraska for a bank, they're not going to know what 1600 is. They're not going to no idea what that means. So there's some little things like that too to be aware of.
That's a good point, though. It might be an easier transition for somebody new to the space to maybe go the federal contract route. So you don't have two shocks at the same time. You can ease into.
Yeah, it is something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And in the DoD space, I think, a lot of the companies, a lot of the bigger companies have veteran groups. So I just joined a new company. They have thousands of employees, and I think something around 35% of the whole workforce is veterans. I
Wow.
just joined like their veteran community. A lot of the leadership at the company is veterans. This is pretty common at the bigger contractors.
Yeah.
And then there's certain smaller startups though that are, startup, veteran owned, veteran disabled, small business, women veteran owned types of things as well. And
Yeah.
so there is oftentimes a really natural fit to bring in other veterans into those kinds of organizations.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Why do you feel veterans are great fits for cyber roles?
Yeah, so the thing in with cyber is the number one skill you have to have is probably determination and critical thinking.
Hmm.
And so regardless of how many manuals we've all read in the military, like at the end of the day, like there's a lot of figuring it out, right? Why won't the truck start? Right? I mean, you could take any number of these skills we're trying to figure out. How do I meet all these priorities when two of my guys are on sick call and this other guy's TDY and I'm down to two people? So I think just generally speaking, veterans come in with a lot of problem solving skills of how do I get the job done with the resources I have. So a lot of that translates into IT or cybersecurity pretty well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of working under pressure, right? So I mean, we're all used to that. Like we're in the military, like we never had enough things. We never had enough time. We never
Right.
had enough money for everything. So I think that those sort of like non-technical skills are really critical. And then like teamwork, I know a lot of people are really focused on the technical skills, and yes, you have to at some point get some technical skills in IT or cybersecurity, but this really is a team sport, and everybody in the military has worked on teams. We work for people we don't like, we work for
Mhm.
people we do like, we've supervised people we don't like, right? None of that's going to change, all right? So none of that will be different. So how you also deal with difficult dynamic situations on your team is going to be a translatable skill right off the bat.
Yeah. Are there jobs in cyber for men or women who don't want to be like staring at a computer all day and plugging in code and looking at?
Yeah, there's probably a couple different routes that you can take for that.
Mhm.
And it depends on what you're into. Like if you're a really hands-on person, like stuff still needs fixed, right?
Yeah.
So there is still sort of like the network technicians that are up and in the office or check on server racks, and you're not always maybe at the help desk.
Right.
Right, putting like I recently changed jobs and I get to my new desk and they're giving me boxes with 4 gigs of RAM. Like I have more RAM on my phone. So the guy comes up, right. He's coming up and re-imaging it and getting the RAM and going back downstairs, right? He's not sitting at a desk all
Right.
day.
Right.
The other aspect that you can do is like there is such a need for good management. So whether it's project management or actual like technical director leadership of the teams.
Yeah.
So again, if you're a veteran that's getting out, maybe retiring, or have a lot of experience leading teams, there is a lot of project
Yeah.
management and leadership opportunity in this field, and we are a tough group to manage. Like,
Yeah.
let me tell you, like there's a lot of people in IT and cyber that kind of want to do it their own way, and you got to get all these people moving in the right direction, and it's herding cats. I mean, it really is in a lot of cases. But so those are two options I see for people right off
Yeah.
the top of
That's
my
good.
head.
What are some of the things about cyber that make it a tougher job? Where somebody who should be aware of? Hey, it's not all positives every day. What are some of the challenges of the role that people can think about now before they decide they want to go down this path?
Yeah, so a couple of things come to mind. One is that generally anything in IT or cybersecurity, it's continual learning,
Right.
right? So it's not like I can just go to a school or take one certification and I'm good to go for 10 years. I mean, not only are we going through sort of formal training fairly repeatedly, there's a lot of reading, a lot of staying up to current events and developments, regardless of which specific field you find yourself in, whether it's software engineering, DevSecOps, cloud architecture, cyber threat intel. I mean, there were 3 indictments just last week that we all have to be aware of if that's the area that we focus on. And the same on the IT side, like, there's new technology all the time. And new security requirements and new policies and regulations, which is another area that for
Yeah.
less technical but policy focused folks, nobody seems to want to do policy. There's a few people, but like we need them. We need
Yeah.
policy gurus. Um, so like that, it's a field that's continually learning. So it's not like I know, I read the manual, we're going to have the same tank for the next 25 years
Right.
and the tank's going to change very little. It's not like that. Like you have to really dive into the continual learning that the field requires.
Yeah. Just to be able to keep up with the bad guys and stay one step ahead. And
Yeah,
yeah, so
absolutely.
it's not the cushy job for that some people might think that you can get in other
Yeah.
industries.
Yeah, it's not a job where once you get on the job and go through some training, it's going to be the same. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to throw any particular job under the bus, but there are
Right.
jobs like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even carpentry, like,
Yeah.
I'm going to assume carpentry changes real slowly over time, right? I know it does, but like if you're,
Yeah.
building houses, right, you're going to be good with that skill set for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good analogy. Absolutely. What do you like to do when you're not at work to unwind? You have any hobbies, interests?
Yeah, so I'm huge into soccer. So at least
Nice.
pre-COVID, I was involved with youth soccer, coach a lot of soccer. I got my US D license recently,
That's
which is
awesome.
pretty cool. And I actually play a lot of video games, so I'm pretty, it's fine with me. I connect to the kids when I have to go talk to them, ask them how they're doing on Rainbow Siege 6 and stuff. Um, I mean, those are my 2 really big ones. I like to do some karaoke, so
Nice.
um,
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. Did you play soccer yourself or?
Yeah, I did. So from the age of 5, pretty much through high school, except when we moved to West Virginia, when I was in middle school, the high school team didn't have a team. So I only got to play my senior year of high school. But
That's
yeah, as soon as I got to Germany, my first duty station, I was coaching soccer. And what's really funny, a
get
real
out of here.
quick story, is new soccer coach, new head coach. I'm coaching 14 to 16-year-olds. Hadn't occurred to me as PFC Stoner that the people who have 14 to 16-year-olds are all sergeant majors and colonels. And the first, like I had a general in my house because his son was on my team. It was fascinating.
Wants more playing
So
time. Why aren't you playing my kid?
yeah, he says, let me know if there's anything I can do. Sure thing, sir. I'll be right on that. No, it was a great
Uh,
time.
that's awesome. I've enjoyed watching the games overseas and in Europe and stuff during COVID. Yeah, they're still going at it. So,
Yeah, I play fantasy soccer, fantasy
oh
English
wow,
Premier League, so we watch all the games, so we're pretty into it.
that's awesome. Well, hey, John, I can't thank you enough for your desire to help your fellow veterans with their careers and to support and to motivate and to be a part of our team here at Seven Eagle and just to be available. It means a lot to me, and I know the community. So, thank you so much for sharing this great advice and suggestions, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great talking with you, and I wish everybody all the best.
That was awesome.